Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm at Snells Beach, which is a seaside town about 1 hour's drive north of Auckland City. In the background is Carwell Island. I was just thinking about that before I started the video, and so an island appears to be there by itself, and there's that saying of no man is an island, and just gets back to that interconnectedness with each other. We're all interconnected with each other as human beings, as people, as spiritual souls, and the island isn't out there by itself. It's obviously interconnected to everything. We just see the surface, so what's below the surface, I talk about that a lot, and of course it's interconnected to everything, nature, and myself of course as well. So just today I'm going to speak about the topic of age and time. Now, I'm not going to be able to go into much detail, but I just wanted to look at it from sort of briefly my understanding of those things and how that's evolved over time in my spiritual journey. Just a few things that have cropped up in the meantime. This morning I saw an article in the news, and for the last 2 days I've been down at Long Bay Regional Park, which is right next to the beach there, and parked up right near the beach and filming 2 videos. And over that 2 days I've probably been for about 5 long walks on that beach. It's about 25 minutes from one end to the other. And today there was a controlled explosion on the beach, which was a little bit of a surprise to the people nearby. They discovered an unused marine flare, and I'm not sure when how long it had been sitting there, but it just was a reminder to me that danger is nearby. I mean, we can think, well, everything's okay and we're safe and we're going to live to a ripe old age, but anything can happen at any time. So it's just a reminder to get on with things. So if one is called to do something, or one has a passion about something, to carry on doing it. So like today, do my video, not wait till tomorrow. Who knows about this current physical incarnation and what might happen. So that was just a small thing that cropped up this morning, which was of note. Secondly, I was driving up here and I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about a new podcast that was coming on, and it was to do with the brain. And the Auckland University here has quite a large research unit which is doing a lot of research into brain and a lot of the diseases, the Parkinson's, the dementia, the concussions, Huntington's disease. And the tie-in there was that they talked about how long the research takes to get anywhere, and a lot of the sort of false paths they go down, and then they have to start again, and they're talking decades of research. But interestingly enough, they said they have made quite a interesting breakthrough in terms of Huntington's disease, and that's a very rare genetic disease. And the breakthrough was that they've trialling a pill that can slow down the progressive disease, which really takes away one's ability to do anything. In the end, one just has no ability to do anything for themselves. They're reliant on everyone else, and the brain breaks down, physically they break down, and it's a terrible result for people. But the tie-in there was that my biggest trigger for getting on my spiritual journey was the fact that I effectively lost my partner, and my partner was lost to Huntington's disease. So she had it genetically from her father. She'd seen her father die of it, and she had chosen never to have children because that's about the only way of stopping the potential. It's a 50% chance of passing it on to the next generation. She was got to a stage where, unfortunately, it's slow degenerative, but she got to a stage where she was no longer able to live alone. She was getting some assistance, so she was taken into care for the rest of her life, and that was in 2016. And it was at that stage that I went right off the rails. I just could not handle that whatsoever, and that's when I got into my immediate usage of methamphetamine and getting into that really dark place that I talked about. But of course, ultimately I ended up in a position where ending up in hospital, made a decision to get on the spiritual path. So out of that darkness has come something incredibly positive for me. It did take a long time. It wasn't an overnight happening, but there were certainly moments like that decision to get on the spiritual path that has led me to this moment in time, where I talk about all the things that I do on these videos, and I write about what I've experienced and have written my life story on viviendolamahianz.com, so Living the Magic. So that was just one thing that cropped up. And then I got to Snell's Beach and I saw an article that was published overnight in the Guardian newspaper. And the article was to do with magic mushrooms and psilocybin, which is the psychedelic element to it, and how a trial had come up with some very positive results for the brain, and how it's helped people in a trial to get much better well-being from where they were. So we're talking things like anxiety, depression, addictions. And so I have a tie-in with that as well, because I've tried ayahuasca, which again is a medicine, but it contains dimethyltryptamine, which is the psychedelic element to it. I've tried sapo, which is the strongest form of dimethyltryptamine. I've tried San Pedro and peyote cactus in Peru as well, which is a slightly different kind of result, more getting in touch with nature with that. And I have taken microdosed some magic mushrooms, and my experiences with them has been incredible for me, and not just talking healing, talking that spiritual ascension. So we have these two elements there. We've got the mainstream scientists who are looking at it from the ability to study the brain and hopefully come up with some cures or some ways to manage some of those diseases. And then we've got this other element which we could call alternative. And I've witnessed both sides. I've witnessed the damage that these diseases can do to people, and experienced it to a little degree myself personally. And then when I was in my spiritual retreat in Peru in July 2025, I effectively saw healing before my eyes. There were 23 people from around the world with various degrees of difficulties in their lives that they were looking for help with. So I guess what I'm saying there is that there is many ways to look at things, and we need to investigate and experience all things that are offered out there to better the world, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. I'll lead into this topic, which is age and time. I spoke about how yesterday I started listening to an audio book, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, an American. And I was listening to one of the early chapters last night, and he talked about how at one stage he went into a deep state and he saw his pineal gland, so his third eye, and he saw it producing a white liquid. And then he went off into a universal realm. And in that universal realm, he saw himself, or all versions of himself, so the infinite versions of himself, the possibilities of what he could have been in the past, what he is in his current moment, and what he could be in the future. So multi-dimensional, and it just all tied in that he saw it as all of these things exist at the same time in the spiritual world. Now, that's a very brief overview of what he talked about, but my experience of ayahuasca and sapo in particular is very similar. You go into a universe where all possible situations or outcomes or solutions are available. So that's a very interesting place to be, that spiritual world, and I'm saying that it was more real than me sitting here on the beach right now. But I'll just quickly talk about age. And years ago I saw Dr. Deepak Chopra on Oprah Winfrey's show, and he was talking about ages, and he said, well, there's 3 ages: your chronological age, which is effectively the number of times you've been around the sun. So we all have a chronological age. There's biological age, which is how your body is measured versus the average for the age that you've met. So, you know, you could be older or younger biologically for your chronological age, and that's we have some control over that, of course, our lifestyles and what choices we make, whether it be exercise, healthy living, what things we put in our body, how we think. And the third age he spoke about was the mental age, and he mentioned in that the most important age was the mental age. And I really can't emphasize enough on my journey that is just so important. Just staying young. I mean, if you get old and let yourself wilt away and become sedentary, I don't know, that just to me is not the best way to utilize our time on earth. But then I thought about, just recently, there's another age, and it's our spiritual age. And that's not measurable in terms of a number, I don't think, because it's tied into the infinite, and the infinite has no number. So I thought maybe the spiritual age is along the lines of your spiritual well-being, or what your understanding of spirituality is, what you've seen, what you've experienced, the Gnosis I speak about, so that Gnostic aspect of my symbology. For me, I've been very fortunate in having seen the source, the eternal light. So perhaps my spiritual age is quite well advanced. I'm not using this as a comparison to anyone else, because there's certainly much more spiritually advanced people than I in the physical incarnation as we speak, and I aspire to growth in that area ongoingly. And thinking even about that spiritual age, I think we're all born tuned into the spiritual, but the conditioning probably can really suppress that, and we lose those gifts. And it was only when I remembered the gifts, so it's an uncovering. So uncovered is another word I use in my symbology. I uncovered these things, that my spiritual age bloomed, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. Right, so that's really brief on age, and now time. And time, I'll compare it, the spiritual time in the spiritual world versus time on the physical material plane. I think we all agreed to a level that time on the on the physical material plane can be almost measured in terms of a clock to a level. But how we utilize that time and how long time seems to go on for can, or rush by, can be influenced by how we think in life and what we're doing. But in the spiritual realm, there is no time. Time does not exist. I've experienced that. So in my ayahuasca ceremonies, events that were happening and visuals and learnings and insights at times seemed to go on for days. But in earth time, possibly it was 10 minutes, 15 minutes. My Sapo experience was a time where I saw first level heaven. There was no time there. I was told afterwards that I was only 5 minutes in that Sapo experience, but when I was in it, it was timeless. There was no such thing. And that's very interesting when we tie it into something like meditation, because I've talked about how meditation is probably, from my perspective, the most primary way of maybe transcending in the spiritual realm. And one utilization of meditation is talking about those future selves, that we all have a future self, and we can all imagine that future self or see those future selves and almost choose a future self. Well, we can choose a future self. We can manifest our future self. And when one is in the spiritual state, there is this ability to effectively compress the time and the distance. So by that I'm saying, if you saw yourself as something in the future that you wanted to manifest, you can bring that back into the present. It's almost like just utilizing the fact that you are in a realm where there is no time and distance. It's there, everything is available for you, and you just bring it back into your present being. And that is manifestation. So really, age and time are things that are very expansionary comparative to perhaps what we learn in our early life or ongoingly throughout our life. We may never think of these things, but there is a lot to be said for having this understanding, because from that one can get a perspective that anything is possible, and one can do this with confidence. So approaching life with confidence and understanding is a brilliant way to live. So again, I'm just speaking for myself, but I've come from a place where I can't say that I was confident about outcomes previously, and yet now I am. And the difference is the spiritual journey I got on. So again, I can only encourage people, if they're in a place where they want to move from, that there is options out there. There's so many options out there. No one needs to do anything that I'm suggesting, psychedelics, meditation, none of that needs to be done. But there are options to move from one place to another. Of course, if someone's in a place where they're perfectly happy and everything's going swimmingly, that's great. I mean, for people to find that is really the ultimate. So what I'm saying there is, find it in whatever way is possible and live it. And I really wish that for everybody. Anyway, that's my short summation on those topics. I hope it's brought you some light and maybe something of interest. And again, I'll make some more videos. I thank you for listening to me. I, as always, ask you to enjoy the journey. We will meet when we should, and namaste.